You don't need expensive supplies to create a beautiful travel journal spread. Today I will tell you how to travel journal on a budget with affordable supplies, creative ideas, and easy tips to add variety to your pages without spending a fortune. Hey, I'm Shogi, the artist behind Novyra Jewelry and Clay Art, and today I will be creating a budget-friendly journal page. Because let's be honest, not everyone can afford 1000 washi tapes and a million stickers. But the good news is, you really don't need much to create a cute, memorable journal spread. So grab a drink, get cozy, and enjoy the video. While I talk and share my thoughts, I will be making a journal spread about my second day in Sicily, as I didn't really have time to journal for a while now and I'm so behind. First things first, what is a travel journal? A travel journal is sort of like a personal record that you use to document your trips, experiences, thoughts and memories. The way you do it is entirely up to you. It can have printed pictures, stickers, glued-in items like tickets or food wrappers, sketches and written accounts. It is one of the best ways to process your trip and to create keepsakes or very unique souvenirs. My number one tip, and honestly the most important one, is don't spend a lot of money on a new hobby you are not even sure if you will enjoy or stick with, unless you can absolutely afford it, of course. I need this reminder just as much as anyone else because I've made this mistake so many times. I would get excited about a new hobby, buy a bunch of expensive supplies, and then lose interest after a few weeks. So now I do everything I can to avoid falling into this trap. You will probably see a lot of people recommending things like the Travelers Company journals and accessories, and trust me, I want them too. They are beautiful, but they are way out of my budget right now. Instead, I would rather wait. If I end up filling up 2, 3 or even 4 journals and prove to myself that this is a hobby I will actually stick with, then maybe I will treat myself to one as a reward. But I'm not going to start blindly spending money before I know it's worth it. Think about it, just the money you would spend on a journal cover, which can easily be more than 50 euros, you could buy so many other supplies to actually use in your journaling or everyday life. You could get hundreds of stickers, several rows of washi tapes, gel pens, and all kinds of decorations that will make your pages look amazing. You could grab something nice to eat, or buy some snacks, or go to your favorite concert as well. Of course, this is not the tip you were coming here for, but I felt it important to mention because I personally would much rather spend my budget on supplies I will use throughout my journaling instead of putting it all into one expensive item at the beginning. But of course, it's entirely up to you and don't feel limited by anything anyone says on the internet. So the first thing you actually need to do to start journaling is to have a journal. I have 2 tips for choosing your journal. Well, first of all, I think it's important to choose one you actually like. I personally tend to use notebooks and journals more if I love how they look. My second tip for choosing a journal is to set your budget. You can actually find pretty affordable notebooks for around 5 to 6 euros, and if you want something a little nicer, there are plenty of good options around 9 to 15 euros. Honestly, you don't need anything more expensive than that, unless you want to do things like watercoloring or use alcohol markers, because those usually require thicker or special papers. As I said, in my opinion, it's important for me to like my journal. If you are the same, but you can't afford your dream journal, that's completely fine. You can just buy a plain journal, like this one. It is a 3-pack for 7 euros on Amazon, and decorate it. A lot of people prefer this method as it becomes more unique and sentimental without having to spend a lot of extra money. If you are not that artistic, it's also a good option to buy a nice plain journal, and if you don't want to decorate it, then you can just wait a little bit until you see if you actually enjoy the journaling, and you could buy a cover for it. There are quite a lot of ones handmade by artists, or there are ones made by bigger brands. For example, Travelers Company, as I mentioned it before, their covers are very expensive, but the notebooks they sell are actually quite cheap. They are 5 to 10 euros. My next tip is for choosing a pen. You can literally use anything that feels comfortable to write with. It could be a simple 1 to 2 euro pen or even a 50 to 100 plus euro pen if that's something you really enjoy investing in. The price doesn't matter, it's all about what works for you. But do keep in mind the thickness of your paper, as some pens, markers or paint can and will bleed through it, and it could ruin several pages in your journal. I recommend opening at the last page and putting tiny dots in the corner with different pens and markers to see how badly they bleed through the paper. For this spread, I'm only using things I already had at home and collected through my travel. So I encourage you to get creative and look around before buying new supplies. You can use almost anything. Of course, nothing that expires or rots, but I don't need to point that out. I hope. And honestly, these two things, a journal and a pen, are the only essentials you need to start journaling. If you are on a really tight budget, I would just use those and whatever you can find around your house for free. And remember, even if you only have one pen, practicing your handwriting or calligraphy can completely transform your pages. A simple journal spread with beautiful handwriting can look 100 times better than a page full of expensive supplies but messy writing. Trust me, I know this because my writing is quite messy and I know my pages would look 10 times better if I just put a little bit of effort into my handwriting. So don't worry about having the most products. Focus on creating something that feels like you and tells the story of your journey, because that is the main point of journaling after all. If people are interested, I could make a journal spread using one singular pen, and I will just use different handwritings, calligraphy techniques, and I will prove that it can still look amazing and you don't need all these extra stuff. My second biggest tip is collect everything while you're traveling, especially ephemera, and be resourceful. Here I'm talking about tickets, food wrappers, receipts, maps, brochures, little paper scraps. Basically anything you think could end up in your journal and you would have thrown away otherwise. On this journal page you can see I actually put in a little shampoo packet, of course without the shampoo in it. I saw it fitting including it in my journal, as this was the shampoo that we got from the accommodation, so I saw it technically almost every day. The best part about this is that most of these things are free. You can pick up maps, brochures, very rarely even postcards at tourist information centers or hotels, and other items like tickets or food packaging that you would have normally thrown away anyway. You already paid for the train ticket or bought the snack, so why not keep the wrapper or at least some parts of it as a memory, as they were all part of your journey and they are not worth forgetting. Not only do these little keepsakes make your journal pages more interesting, but they also help you remember the small moments that you might have otherwise forgotten when you were writing about your trip later. Another great thing about free maps and tourist booklets is that they are perfect if you don't have a way to print photos, don't want to spend the money on printing, or simply don't think it's worth the hassle. Most maps and brochures include small photos of the area or the most famous landmarks, which you have probably visited anyway as a tourist. You can cut these out and use them to decorate your journal pages, giving them a more personalized look without spending anything extra. If you see my previous journaling video, I actually did this myself, as it's an easy way to add color, memories and context to your journal while making the most of materials that would have otherwise ended up in the recycling bin. My third tip is to take many pictures, even if they feel pointless. You can sort through them later. I know not everyone wants to include pictures in their journal, but if you do want to, I have a few budget-friendly recommendations. First of all, I wouldn't recommend buying a portable photo printer unless you really want one. I wanted one too because they look so fun and convenient, but after looking more into them, I realized they are not the best value. The inkless printers usually don't have the greatest photo quality, and the ink-based ones are really expensive to use since you need special cartridges and photo paper. Instead, I would recommend looking for free printing opportunities in your area. For example, some libraries offer free printing, and if you're a student, your school or university might give you a certain number of free pages every week or month. The photos won't be printed on glossy photo paper, but they are free and they are personal, and they will still look great in your journal. If you don't mind spending a little bit of money, I highly recommend using photo printing kiosks. Here in Hungary, we have CV or CV, however you want to pronounce it, sorry for mispronouncing it, which is actually a German company, so you can probably find it in other countries as well, where you can either order photos online or print them at one of their in-store machines. If all you want is high quality prints, they are very affordable and usually even more worth it than printing it yourself at home, especially with portable printers. With these machines pricing, you would come to around 50 cents per picture. They usually have a base price of 1.5 to 2 euros if you print it there in place, and around half a euro, like 50 to 60 cents per picture, or even less. In the meantime, if you buy a portable printer that actually has good picture quality, it still won't be up to these premium standards, and you will come out around 80 cents to €1 per picture if you use the better ink versions of the printers. As you can be sure, those won't really fade throughout the years. If you decide to use one of these printing machines, you can even use a free app like Canva to arrange your photos before printing. printing, and the smallest print size is usually around 10 by 15 centimeters, but if that's way too big for your journal, you can make a collage in Canva and split the page into 2 or even 4 photos. That way you can get multiple smaller pictures for the price of one singular print, which is also a great way to save money. I'm sure you can find a very similar company in your country, so please give it a look. I haven't had the time to get my pictures printed yet, so my first few spreads unfortunately won't have any pictures in them. My fourth tip for journaling is to find the journaling style that works the best for you. A lot of people, including me, find it a bit of a hassle to journal while they are actually traveling. You can bring your entire stationery collection with you, and making a nice journal spread can easily take 20 to 30 minutes, if not longer. I would much rather spend that time exploring and enjoying my trip. That's why I have a different approach. While I'm traveling, I collect as many keepsakes as I can, like tickets, receipts, maps and packaging. Then I carry a small notebook or just use the notes app on my phone to write down everything I want to remember. I will also make little notes about where I want to place certain tickets or packagings in my journal later. This way, I can fully enjoy my trip without worrying about keeping my journal up to date every day. Once I'm home, I already have all the memories, notes and little souvenirs ready to turn into a journal spread. Another bonus is that by the end of the trip, I've usually collected so many things or interesting paper items that I don't really even need to buy any extra stickers or decorations. My journal pages end up feeling more personal, and it also saves a bit of money. Another popular way of journaling is to do it as you travel. You can work on your pages back at the hotel, during a quiet hour, while sitting at a cafe, or even on a train between destinations. People who journal this way usually keep their stationery to a minimum and only bring the essentials. The advantage is that everything is still fresh in your mind, so it's much easier to write down all the little details, thoughts and feelings that you might be forgetting by the time you get home. It's important to note that there is no right or wrong way to travel journaling. It really comes down to what fits your travel style and what you will actually be enjoying. Both journaling styles have their advantages and disadvantages, so I recommend you figure out what works best for you. And another tip I have for you is just to have fun. Travel journaling shouldn't feel like a chore or something you're forcing yourself to do. There shouldn't be any pressure to make every page look perfect. I know it's easy to compare your journal to the beautiful spreads you see online, but remember, a lot of these people have been journaling for years, sometimes even decades. They've had plenty of time to develop their own style and build up a huge collection of decorations and supplies. Your journal is your journal. If your goal is to create perfectly aesthetic pages because that's what you enjoy, that's completely okay. But for me, I wanted a hobby where I didn't have to worry about everything to look perfect. I wanted something that let me be creative without putting pressure on myself. And honestly, I am saying this while showing my journal to the entire internet. So if I can let go of being a perfectionist just a little bit, hopefully you can too. At the end of the day, the memories inside your journal are so much more important than whether every page looks Pinterest-worthy. One of my last tips is to dare to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment with different ways of journaling, try different layouts, handwriting styles, fonts, color schemes, and ways to decorate your pages. Over time, you will naturally discover what you enjoy the most and what feels right for you. I'm still in that process myself. I'm trying to figure out what kind of travel journal I want to create. I love writing down a lot of details because I don't want to forget them, but I also don't love having these huge blocks of text you see me writing on every page. I would like to start adding more real photos and interactive elements too, like fold-out tickets, hidden notes, or little flip-up pictures. I also want to add that you don't need to fit everything onto one spread. You can have 2 to 3 spreads for each time. Why should you limit yourself and your creativity to 2 pages? It's completely okay if your travel journal feels a bit all over the place, especially at the beginning. In fact, I think that's part of the fun. As you keep journaling, your style will naturally evolve, and each trip will teach you something new about how you like to document your memories. For example, you could make a longer journal entry summarizing your whole trip, have a different entry for each day, or have entries for each bigger or most meaningful activity you did, like going to the museum you always wanted to see. Or if you don't like writing at all, just use up all the ephemera you have been collecting and make a junk journal or scrapbook page where you stick in all the tickets, stickers, receipts you want. And finally, my last tip is to don't be afraid to start. Every new hobby can feel overwhelming, and honestly life can too. It's completely normal to feel unsure or think you are not good enough in the beginning, But the only way to improve is to start. So let this cozy journal with me video be a little sign you have been waiting for. I hope it inspires you to pick up a notebook, collect your memories, and just begin. And you have to keep going even when you feel lost or when you are tempted to give up. Every page you make teaches you something new, and over time you will create a journal that's uniquely yours. Most importantly, enjoy the process. Years from now, you will be so much happier that you captured those memories than you ever will be about whether every page looked perfect. As you can see, you really don't need a lot of money to start journaling, as most of the supplies can actually be used many times, not just once. Like if you buy a nice pen, that can last you months to years, and you can just buy a refill later. Of course, there are exceptions like stickers, but those are usually quite cheap, and you can even buy sticker sheets which you can spread out throughout different journal spreads. For this spread, I mostly use things I already had at home. I use a pen I already owned, but you can easily find basic pens for around €0.50 to €1. A notebook can cost around 5 to 7 euros, and I also used a glue stick that I bought for about €1. The washi tape I used was actually a huge bargain. I found a gigantic package on sale in a random store for €2.50 with 50 different washi tapes. That means each row was only around €0.05, which is honestly such a good deal. I also used a lot of free ephemera I collected during my travels, plus some free little drawings I printed out instead of buying stickers. For decoration, I used a few gel pens, acrylic markers, and some extremely old tacky stickers I had laying around. For gel pens, if you buy brands other than Sakura, which are usually around 2 to 3 euros per pen, you can find cheaper options for around 1 to 2 euros each or for a whole pack. But honestly, you don't need a huge collection of gel pens and acrylic markers. Just a few colors you love, or if you want several colors on a budget, get one of those big pens that have several colors in them. You can see it on screen right now. These pens cost around €3 for 4 to 8 colors, making them a great budget-friendly option. Besides the budget, they also save space. I remember using them a lot while I was in school. The acrylic markers I use are also fairly affordable in the long run. A set of 60 colors costs around €80, which works out to about 1.3 euros per marker. They are often on sale, and I saw the new 150 marker set can sometimes be found for under €100, bringing the cost down to less than €1 per marker. That said, I know that spending 80 to €100 upfront isn't budget friendly for most people, especially if you are just starting out. The good news is that you can find smaller, more affordable sets, or even buy individual markers if you want to try them out. And honestly, when you're starting out, acrylic markers are far from necessary, so don't feel pressure to buy them. You can create beautiful journal spreads with much simpler supplies. Originally, I wanted to use alcohol markers for this spread, but my notebook paper is way too thin and they would have bled through. So always consider what supplies work with your journal paper. If you already have a notebook, this spread only costs like €1 or €2. If you are starting completely from zero, it might actually cost a little more because you will need to buy the basics, but even then, journaling can still be very affordable. And if you want a little secret, if you ever went to a job fair, they always give out free pens and notebooks, so if you are visiting anything like that, don't leave the freebies behind and just start there. And another little tip, if you want a truly unique entry in your journal, you could ask other people to write something or make a little doodle. You could ask friends, family, people you travel with, or if you are extremely extroverted, people you meet during your travels, like flight attendants, small restaurant owners, hotel staff, or anyone you want. I'm definitely too introverted for any of this, but maybe you aren't. And here you could see my finished journal spread. I hope you enjoyed seeing the final result and following along with the process. Remember, don't be afraid to start. You don't need expensive supplies or a perfect style to create something meaningful. Just enjoy the process and make something that feels like you and it is meaningful to you. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you if you already journal or you're just thinking about starting it. Also, if you are interested, I would really appreciate if you checked out my online store where I currently sell handmade jewelry and clay trinkets. You can actually watch how I make this here on this channel. I'm planning a little rebrand soon, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!